Well, hello, lovely soul. I'm really excited that you found me, and welcome to my insights. You're probably going through a lot of personal expansion or growth at the moment, or even self discovery, which is why this information's come across your page. My name's Jennifer, and first and foremost, I'm actually just like you. I'm a soul having a human experience. But for those that are new to me or have never met me before, I'm also a psychic medium. I really look forward to providing you with insights, knowledge, and new methodologies to really help you on your journey to navigate life. These insights come through me from my guides, and it's my hope that they're as helpful to you as they actually have been to me throughout my life. All of these insights have really helped me to gain a deeper understanding of myself as well as my gifts, and I really hope that it does the same for you as well. But let's get started with today's insight, which is all about change. It's really interesting to me that even I can struggle with different topics and really think about what I want to cast a light on to really support you in life and to really share some of the information that comes through to me from my guides as well. So sometimes I'll actually sit and information comes to me really fast. Other times I really sit in my own energy and with my guides and I really ask them the question, what do I need to be sharing with everybody at the moment to really help them with where they're at this point in time? So I actually did that a couple of days ago, and I was told by my guides to share insights around transitioning with you. Now, transitioning means a lot of different things on different levels in my brain. So I often use the word transitioning when we move from physical to non-physical. So instead of using the word death, I'll often use the word transition. But in today's insights, what we're really talking about is transitioning as in change. And I find it interesting that Benjamin Franklin once said to us that nothing is really certain except death and taxes. You may have heard that quote before. I actually believe that this statement could have been nothing is really certain except change, death and taxes, because change is the thing that stays with us throughout our whole lives. It's something that's constant. It's why our souls are in human form anyway, and it's also why we have contrast through our emotional scale. So for those that don't know, our emotional scale is when we have the 24 or 22 different emotions that we go through that can be a low frequency or a higher frequency. So from grief, despair, and sadness all the way up into love, freedom, empowerment, and knowledge. We're actually here in human form to grow our soul, to have multiple experiences. Sometimes we have not so good experiences, but these are actually, and that comes with negative emotions, of course, or low frequency emotions. But these not so good experiences are to actually remind us that we want better experience or we want happier experiences. So that forces us to actually think differently and to think and visualize what we'd actually like to have in our lives instead that feels better for us. The thing is, all of the time, that comes with change. It's about us having to change our mindset, change what we're picturing, change our emotion, change how we're feeling. The number of people that have actually said to me over the years that they hate change leaves me absolutely gobsmacked. I'm just like, dude, if we didn't change, we'd all still be toddlers crawling around in nappies, or wearing the same outfit every day because we don't like change, or we'd never shower. Or we'd be eating the same meals or having the same experiences over and over and over again, kind of like Groundhog Day, if you know that movie. But it just amazes me that we go through change every single day, yet people still say that they hate change. So, we can really get hung up on that sometimes. So the first thing that I'm going to say is, if you're getting hung up on the word change, know that you are naturally changing and you have done since you were a child. But we often associate the word change with being hard or traumatic. And it's actually not. Change is something that's really positive for us. So what if we just took the word change and we called it something different for ourselves? What if we made change fun and simple? So a couple of other words that I came up for change just while I was sitting and, talking with my spirit guides. And just as a reminder, when I'm receiving information from my guides, it's either coming through to me in an auditory way, so I'm hearing what they're saying, or I'll be sitting there and doing automatic writing. So just allowing words to come through as I'm sitting there writing. So a couple of different ways. So these are some of the words that came through that we could actually use instead of the word change, if you're getting hung up on it or if that's getting in the way. So one would be transition. We could say move, passage, adaptation, jump, leap, shift, switch, progression, progress. They're a little bit corporate-y, aren't they? Development, evolution. I also don't know that we want to use the word development a lot either, because it feels like you've always got to be having work to do. That's not very fun. But you can take your pick. It's about listening to the words or choosing words that actually work for you, that feel more comfortable or more empowering than the word change. I kind of like the word adaptation because this is what I feel like I do. I can be in any situation and adapt. I can be given any amount of feedback, and this is just me, but I can be given any amount of feedback and I'll adapt to that. Throughout my life, I've had to adapt to lots of unexpected and traumatic experiences, just as I'm sure you have as well. Welcome to life. We all go through it. And there's been nothing that Source or the universe has really sent me to experience that I've refused to adapt to. And I will make an aside here. You've got to remember that everything happens for us, not to us. And so Source is never going to send us something that we're not going to be able to manage. But it's how we look at that situation or how we feel about that or feel toward that situation that really makes a situation feel like it's hard or that we don't want to change. So using the word adaptation seems to work for me because I just see it as, well, it's not so much change, but it's just adapting. Everything's happening for me, not to me. I also really enjoy change. I really enjoy growth. I'm super happy that I'm not 16 still. I'm super happy that I'm able to walk and I'm not in diapers or crawling. I mean, I actually really enjoy change. And if you really sat and thought about it, if you are older or in the same age bracket as me, think about what it was like to be 16. I mean, seriously, or, even 13, 14, would you really want to be back at that age again? Or are you really comfortable now with all of the insight and knowledge that you've gained along the way? No matter, the bottom line is from all of this is that I enjoy growth. I enjoy having new experiences. And no matter how far out of my controlling sphere, because remember, control is a little bit different to change, but no matter how far out of my controlling sphere or my comfort zone that all of this change or growth can take me, I still adapt and grow. Because what's worse, like if you're not moving with the change or if you're not adapting to things as they come up in your life, then potentially you're in a position where you are resisting any form of growth. And I think for me, it uses way more energy to be resisting any form of adapting than it is to just adapt. I'd much rather just go with the change than be in resistance to it. So maybe just changing the word will actually help you accept change even more. Changing the word will help you change. So the next thing that I really want to talk about is, I've just touched on it. Like I find that it's easier to just move with change, but how to stop resisting change. Sure, choose a new word, choose something that works for you. And you've really got to apply it, over several weeks so that it gets into your muscle and into your subconscious. But choose a new word. But the key really is to start to go with the flow and not be wrestling with any form of change. So change can be at a really subtle level, such as setting up a new routine for yourself to get something you want. So, for example, a small change might be saving $20 a week so that in the future you can buy a new couch. So the change, again, would be putting the money aside instead of spending it on something else. It's subtle and simple, and it will bring about eventually the change that you want, which would be the new couch. Resistance to this might sound like, oh, it's going to take so long. I'll just use my sofa money to go out or to buy that new pair of shoes or to get that new top, or I'll just blow it on takeaway this week. If you really, really want this couch, then you have to keep visualizing having it, of course, because that's manifesting, but also changing your behaviors or your action to support that new couch coming in. So instead of being frustrated with having to put $20 a week away, I'd get excited about that And then you just go with the flow of saving the $20 a week. So really, to get excited, you've got to stay focused on the new couch being in your home. One of the things that I really love is hearing stories or information from people that have a holiday account. And this isn't something that I did in my childhood or in my life growing up, but really having a holiday account where, mum and dad put away money, each fortnight or each payday that goes into a holiday account. But more often than not, the two of them have already planned what that next holiday is going to look like, and they're starting to put money aside for that. And I remember being in, grade 7 or 8 at school, and one of my friends actually went to Disneyland. Her parents took her to Disneyland. This is back in the 80s when it was super expensive. And I just could not believe that they'd saved enough money to actually go on that holiday. The point of this particular example is the holiday account. You keep visualizing the holiday. You keep thinking about every time you put that $20 or $50 aside to the holiday, you're picturing what you're going to be taking, what the kid's going to be like. If you've got children, you're thinking about what it's going to be like sitting on the beach, or what activities you're going to do, what food you're going to eat. Every single time you put that money aside for the holiday, you're really staying focused on that holiday. And so it becomes really easy or natural to go through that change. It doesn't become stressful at all. It's a natural progression. So this is one of the changes that can be at a really subtle level, that you're not resisting it. So you're not throwing money in an envelope or putting in an account going, bloody holiday. I can't believe we're going on this holiday. And if you are having those thoughts while you're putting your money away, you might want to change the destination you're going to. So it's going with the flow of saving that money. The other side of all of this is that change can really be thrown at you with all the karma and the dramatics that you can actually imagine. These circumstances can feel amazing, so they can be positive when they're just thrown at you, or they can make you feel really disempowered, which comes with despair and grief. So for example, if you happen to win lotto, this would be a massive change and potentially feel amazing. On the other hand, you might be thrown a complete curveball, like having to move house. And this can feel horrible. It can feel hard. I really hate moving house, but it happens. You've got to go through all of the throes of packing and finding somewhere. Or, another traumatic experience, like there might be massive changes to your health, or to someone that you love, or it might be a change to your job. These types of changes can really leave us feeling out of control. So the question is, how do we succeed? How do we become successful with these changes, particularly the ones, where they've actually been thrown at us? So the real answer, again, comes back to not having any resistance to the change. So, resistance here might sound like, if we're talking about lotto, for example, so it's a positive change that comes through, right? So we'll talk about the positive ones where this curve just comes out of nowhere. So you might actually have a negative thought around, I'm not deserving of a financial windfall. Other people need that money more than me. It's hard to find somewhere to live. These are all ways of resisting change. If you think about moving house, it might be, it's hard to find somewhere to live. It's a tough market at the moment. I'm so tired of hearing that. It's a tough market at the moment. And it's just like, wow, like all of this is resistance. Maybe if your health has been thrown up in the air, I'll never get better. It's just, or this whole feeling of, I'll fight for justice for what they did to me in this role when we're talking about jobs. All of this is resistance to change. Now, I'm not saying to just roll over and take it, whatever is thrown at you. That's not what we're talking about here. What we are saying, though, is because of in each of the above examples that we've just discussed, they could come about in some way, shape or form. We can actually choose to be in resistance and not want the change, or we can choose to move with the change, or like I say, adapt to the change. So one of the things that I would start with, particularly when something is thrown at you out of the blue, is to sit and question it. Just sit in your logic. So that's one of the first things that I do. So when I've had these challenges thrown at me, I really move into my logic. I take any emotion out of what the new thing is, or what the change is going to be, but I focus on the logic. So I look at the reason why it might have happened. And then I pivot my thinking to understand what the positive experiences of this particular change or adaptation could mean for me in the future. And actually, it is a change at that point in time because, while you're going through and thinking about things, you haven't quite gone through with adapting or changing. So, one of these examples for me was when I was living in an apartment and the real estate called to tell me that the unit had been sold to an owner-occupier. So that meant that no matter where my lease was up, they came to me and said, well, you know what, the new owner actually wants to move in. So would you move out? Pretty much. I could have seen this as a massive disaster in my life, but I really chose to sit down and see it as an opportunity. So I started to work out, where I saw myself in the next couple of years. Is it worth staying here and upsetting everybody else? Was this particular apartment still serving me? The unit, was it still serving me? Did I need somewhere bigger? What were the opportunities that were potentially coming down the pipeline for me? So I started to really think about all of that and what my future actually looked like. And as a result, I was talking with my sister Deborah, and we ended up moving in together, and we moved into a much larger house. And shared all the costs of everything. It was just fantastic. It was such a fabulous house. And we had a really great experience there. Another example of forced change for me was when I was working as a nanny in London. I don't think I've shared this story with many people. So yes, I worked as a nanny in London for a while. But the mother that I was working for, I had 3 children, all under the age of 20 months. 3 years, 20 months and a newborn is what I had, 3 kids. And I was working, 6 days a week. I had 1 day off and I had my own room, which was right down the bottom out the back in, one of those old townhouses in Chelsea of all places. But the mother that I was working for actually read my diary. She actually went to my room while I was away and read through my diary. She didn't just read my diary, she actually shared it with her friends. So when I got back from being out for my day off, I came home to find my diary on one of the main tables in the living space. And she approached me and said, we need to have a talk. And she asked me to leave. Now, I could have spent many weeks seeking justice and really fought her for breach of privacy, for invasion of privacy. I could have kicked up a stink about it. I could have, gone to different places because everything was above board with what I was doing. I wasn't under the table as a nanny, so it was all above board. I could have gone through all of that, gone back to an agency and said, this is what she's done. But instead, I actually got into my logic and I explored my options. And through exploring my options, I realized that I actually didn't enjoy being a nanny. I certainly didn't enjoy the newborn or the 20-month-old. Actually, the 3-year-old, I think, was the handful. But I actually didn't like the family themselves. I didn't like the mother and father. I found them to be not very engaging and to be quite icy. And really, it was making me feel stuck living overseas and having that experience. So I really got into my logic and explored how I was feeling, looked at what my options were. And at the time, I'd made friends while I was actually in London, and I ended up moving in with a musician friend. And that whole experience was just insane. So it was during this time, I seriously got my own room. I had everything set up. We were, I was going to work during the day doing hospitality, and then in the afternoons and sometimes on the weekends we were doing music. It was just great. But it was also during this time that I got to not only write and record music, but I also learned how to read Turkish coffee. And, the muso that I ended up living with, strictly platonic, but the guy that I ended up living with, his cousin used to come around all the time, and she used to teach me how to read Turkish coffee. And of course, I was already a medium. I've been a medium my whole life, and it was just another modality to actually learn how to use. I still read Turkish coffee today. I just love it. It was such a great experience. But I met some truly amazing people just through going through and adapting to that change. And the experiences that unfolded from there just kept coming. So it kind of worked as like a release. But the point with this is that was something that was thrown at me that I wasn't expecting. Even though deep down I knew that I didn't want to be there, I still wasn't expecting them to almost kick me out and say, you're fired. But the new experiences, it just busted doors wide open for me because I got into my logic, thought about it, and then looked at opportunities that were around me and went for it. So one of the things that I want to say is that when we get into resistance with change, just because we don't like the thought of change, you know, change happens every day in our lives, whether it's forced upon us or whether it's something that we're choosing. So really be in a space where you are embracing change. And I do want to say, maybe it is adapting, get into a space where you're adapting. And we do want to say, get into your logic with it as well. So here are some key tips for embracing change. One, as we've already stipulated, change the word for yourself. If you're one of these people that always says, oh my God, I hate change, then you know what? Use a different word. Start to embrace it. Stop telling yourself that you hate change. Better still, try telling yourself that you love it. Because I certainly do. I absolutely get curious about what's going on around me. I get curious about being in the logic and really thinking things through and seeking out new opportunities. But like I said earlier in this particular recording, if we didn't change, if you didn't change, you wouldn't be the person that you are today. That's the importance of adapting and of change. The other thing to know is that, change really helps our soul to grow and to have new experiences. And I can't say often enough, that's why we are here. That's why our soul is in human form, to have multiple experiences. So what you're saying when you're saying, I hate change, is by saying, I don't want to have any new experiences. And I'm just like, well, you can't choose that because that's why you're here. That's why your soul is in human form, to go through those new experiences and to expand. The next tip that I've got to really embrace change, get out of your emotion. Get out of your emotion and get into your logic. When things are thrown at you, whether it's, whether it's being fired at a job or made redundant at a job, whether it's being forced by pressure to leave a job, all of this is scary change because that's about income. Whether or not it's a health scare that you've had and that you've got to change diet or change what you're doing or, change behaviors, whatever it is. And again, these can be really hard, but get out of the emotion. So when things are thrown at you, you're going to feel that emotionally first, and it's going to throw you for a six. And just when you catch your breath, have a cry if you need to when these big changes come through, but then sit and get into your logic. Think about why the change came, and then think about what the positive outcome might be for you if you adapt. Now, if you reach a point where you just go, you know what, that change is not worth it, or that's not what I want to do, then strategize how you're going to stay and not change. It's possible. With the unit that I was asked to move out of, I could have actually argued the toss with them and said, actually, my lease is for another 6 months and I want to stay. I could have argued that toss, but that wouldn't have been doing me any favors because then I would have had the next 6 months with all of this hanging over my head. But if that needed to work for me for financial reasons, for personal reasons, then, be prepared to go there. But the change is still going to happen. It's still going to come up. So get into your logic, get out of your emotion, get into your logic, think about why the change came about and what the positive outcome might be for you. I've said it before, stop resisting change. It's a part of life. I think I've said that enough. It's a part of life. Go with the flow. The other thing that really helps me with adapting as well is that knowing that things happen for me, not to me. I've already said source, universe, is never going to send you any change that you're not able to manage. Why? Because that's your soul contract. That's what your soul is here for, to expand and grow. So your soul knows what's coming down the pipeline. Your soul knows what change is going to happen. And so, you're never going to be given anything that you are unable to manage. Now, in saying that, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have human emotions and feel crap about some of them. You are 100% going to be in grief sometimes, disempowerment sometimes, despair other times. You get into anger, you might get into worry. You will have all of these emotions, and that's completely normal. But come out of that and just know that things are happening for you, not to you. Yeah. And I think that's a really hard thing to really wrap your head around sometimes, but your soul is clearly going to know, which way to actually guide you. But when you get into your thinky brain too much or into your emotions too much, then we're not exploring that opportunity to grow and to adapt. So we've got to go with it sometimes and just have that realization that sometimes change is thrown at you, but it's thrown at you for you, not to you. It's for you to catch. and use, not to resist. Know that you have all the skills. So one of my favorite things is just knowing that you've got all the skills that you need to manage any form of change that comes your way. And if all else fails, you've got Google to check for resources to help you. And you've also got me. So if you need a hand with change, that's certainly something that I can help with. But you've actually got all the skills that you'll need to manage any form of change. And I really, think about it in the early days, if you had to change your diet, it was really hard to do that. But now we've got things like online ordering. You can Google what a better diet for yourself is going to be. I don't know why diet keeps coming up. It's interesting. So, thinking about food and what's going to work, we've got the world at our fingertips through Google. So we can always check resources from there that are really going to help us. I mean, I know things that I just go, I may not be able to change my own brakes on my car, but I've certainly Googled how to do it. I just choose not to do it. So it's going, but even changing brakes on a car, that's change. I've got to change the brakes. And it's just like, yeah, well, you can have somebody and pay somebody in to do that. But you could Google that and work out whether or not you want to do it yourself. So again, getting into that logic, getting behind it again and really investigating what are the opportunities here. So looking at that for me, I'm just like, right, well, the opportunity here is that looks way too hard on Google in any video that I'm looking at. So I'm going to book it in to somebody who knows what they're doing and can get it done quickly and efficiently. The next point that I've got for really helping you with change, get a bigger bucket list. For crying out loud, the more goals you have, the easier change becomes. The easier it is to adapt because it's super easy. Like if I have already had on my bucket list, in London that I really wanted to live with, with musicians and, people that were also interested in mediumship and reading Turkish coffee. If that was on my bucket list already, there is no way that I would have continued nannying for so long. I actually don't even know that I would have gone into nannying if I knew that that was an opportunity back then. So get a bigger bucket list. And a bucket list is all about writing down experiences that you still want to have. So some people will call them experiences. Some people say bucket list. They can also be called goals or aims, future goals. Future experiences that you want to have, something that you want to get, but the bigger that bucket list, the more goals that you've got, the easier it is to adapt because you can just flick it and go, I really want that new couch. So I'm not going to have that coffee today, that purchased coffee. So it makes it easier to really adapt. Another point too is that if it's appropriate, talk with people you trust about the change that you're experiencing. And we do say if it's appropriate because there are some people in your life that, they don't manage their own change or are adapting very well to things themselves. And if you mention what you're going through, that might freak them out as well. So really choose the people that you trust. Choose the people that you would talk with about the changes that you're experiencing. And the other thing too is that if you are really experiencing that much change and you've got nobody in your immediate trust circle that you would talk with about that, reach out to professionals. Reach out to other people outside of your clique of friends. Really reach out to, there are social workers that are out there. There are hotlines that you can call today. There are so many different resources that are available to you. Contact me and book in if you need to. But, there's always going to be somewhere that you can actually share or talk with somebody else around what you're actually experiencing. One of the worst things that you can do when you are going through, I'm going to coin this as traumatic change. So change that's been thrown at you that you weren't quite ready for or prepared for. When you're going through that type of change, it's super important to again reach out to people and know that you've got trusted sources or trusted people around you that you can lean on. Super important. So you don't have to hang on to that yourself or go through it or suffer it in silence. Please reach out and, talk with people that are going to understand or that are going to be able to provide you with advice or support. The next point that I've got in really managing change is pivot your thinking from doom and gloom to what if. So I really love this because you're always going to go through it, right? You're always going to be in a space where you go, oh my God, I cannot believe this has just happened. That's the doom and gloom stuff that I'm talking about. And then if you allow yourself, you can get into a real space of despair. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What's, all of the worry stuff and, worrying and manifesting what you don't want, basically. So when we go through the emotion, but then I want you to come back through and say, but what if? So what if this change allows me to travel? What if this change actually makes me feel better? What if this change helps me to earn more money? What if this change actually, if I adapted to this change, could I go on an even better holiday? So really play the what if game with yourself. What if? What if this change allows me to, what if it makes me feel, what if? Just what if? And, that's not signing your name in blood on anything. That's just going through and asking what if. And that's going to help move your subconscious mind and your thinky brain into a bit more of a logical place. Sometimes it is important to just go with the flow. Resisting change is, and often I said it before, it's just wasting your energy. So why not try to go with the change for a while and see how that feels as well? Practice self-love. Practice self-love, practice self-love. And self-love, again, I've written a book on it. You can pick that up online at jenniferkarl.com. But it's really going through and having that act of self-love all the time. When you're focused on yourself, when you're focused on your own needs, when you're focused on, reflecting and feeling self-love for yourself, that is going to help you to stop resisting change. So again, appreciation. When you're in appreciation, you can't be resisting change. The brain can't think of two things at once. That's fact. So the brain can't think of two things at once. So self-love, self-love, self-love is one of the most important things to really practice when you are going through change. And not easy either, because if you're in a place of disempowerment, the challenge really is, how do you rise from disempowerment into one of self-love? And the key to this is being gentle with yourself, and then leaving your emotions there and really focusing on the logic, getting into your left-hand side of the brain logic. In conclusion to all of this, so they're my major points. In conclusion to all of this, I do love adapting. For me, change is like a breath of fresh air. It always brings with it new challenges, new hope, new inspiration. But, not like a lot of people, I'm actually a solution finder. And that's why I love adapting and finding the silver lining in hard situations. I just love that. It's one of the things that I love, providing people with clarity and direction in their lives. Looking from the outside in when I'm doing readings with people is just such an amazing gift to actually have. But I really do enjoy change. It really is like a breath of fresh air for me. So I hope these insights have been helpful for you, and they really give you an opportunity to think of change, or to choose a different word for change, maybe like adapting, but to see it in a more productive and positive way for yourself. Remember that we are souls having human experiences, and change is going to be a part of that. I hope that's been beneficial to you today. I'm sending you so much love today and always, and I really look forward to continuing being of service to you. See you at our next Insights.